Hey guys, welcome back to another impressions video, this time for Life is Strange for the PlayStation 4, which is the latest game I managed to beat. And I'm really glad I did. I'm really glad I was a little bit patient in order for them to release a physical version of the game. This originally came out as a digital episodic game divided into 5 chapters. And this is essentially a visual adventure game similar to the Telltale games, in which it's very heavily story driven, and based on the decisions you make throughout the game, certain things can change. You can change the outcome of certain things that happen during the game. So I knew exactly what I was expecting before I got into this game, but the one reason why I was very interested in this when this game got announced was the developer. Dontnod. They don't have a pretty big track record. They're somewhat new in the industry, but I really enjoyed their first game, which is Remember Me for the PlayStation 3, which is something completely different than Life is Strange. That game is an action beat 'em up in which you can create your own combos, and the gameplay itself was nothing new, nothing spectacular, but the game did have a couple of very interesting things that caught my attention, namely the characters, a time rewind factor, which in Remember Me you can rewind time in order to analyze the memory of certain characters during certain parts of the game. So you can definitely see how they got that influence transfers from Remember Me into Life is Strange. And last but not least, just the overall art direction and the environments. I loved Remember Me so much to the point that I got this right here. Which is the art of Remember Me, which I do have a video going over this. I do have an overview video, and it's one of the most interesting settings that I've seen in a video game, which is in this case is Neo Paris in the year 2084, a very futuristic setting, but very full of art, full of style, and that definitely caught my attention as far as the developer goes. And as you can see here, there's as a side note, I think there's a similarity in the way the main protagonist in Remember Me looks compared to Max Caulfield. Maybe it's just me, but you know, the kind of like the short haircut. And I also noticed this. I just want to share this really quick with you guys. Another character in Remember Me looks a lot like Victoria. This girl right here with the short hair. She looks a lot like Victoria in Life is Strange, so I guess they borrowed some ideas. I'm not really sure if the art director from this game is the same as the one in Life is Strange, but I wouldn't be surprised. So that's that. So let's briefly talk about the story, but before that, I'm gonna do a spoiler-free section. The first half will kind of be like a spoiler-free discussion in order to, you know, tell you guys how much I enjoyed this game. And towards the end of the video, I will be discussing a little bit of spoilers, just so I let you know what decisions I made during the game for those of you that have played the game. So with that being said, the story, it takes place in modern or present time in Oregon, in the city of Arcadia Bay. You play as Max Caulfield, which she is a senior high school student that goes to the boarding private school called Blackwell Academy, and they specialize in arts, and more specifically, Max, she is a part of the photography program of the high school, and she, along with other people, you know, comprised of, you know, the class that specializes in photography. So the game starts by basically introducing you to the classroom, to your classmates that are also in the same class, and you get to learn a little bit about each character, you know, their personalities, and I thought it was a pretty cool for the game to start. And then really early in the game, you witness a murder. You go into the restroom, and there's a dispute between two students, and one of them kills the other. And you realize at that point, like just by act of magic, I guess, that you have the power to rewind time. So what you basically do is you rewind the time, and you prevent this accident or murder or assassination from happening. And at that point, Max realizes that she has this very special gift of rewinding time. So you know, that's basically the story in a nutshell. Throughout the game, you're trying to figured out why do you have these powers and how you can use these powers to help other people. Also, another theme in the game is you kind of put your detective hat on during the game, and you try to solve this disappearance of a student that happened a few months before the game starts. This girl called Rachel Amber, she went on missing, so you're also trying to play detective and solve that mysterious disappearance. And also at the same time, you tackle with the typical high school drama and high school themes, I guess, if you want to call it that, such as loneliness, depression, bullying. You have the typical people that are popular, the nerds, the people that get bullied, and things like that. So a bunch of themes that the game tackles throughout the story. As I mentioned, this is divided into 5 different episodes. And the whole experience lasts, I would say, between 10 to 15 hours, depending on how fast you play the game. And as far as my level of enjoyment, I'm gonna go ahead and say, guys, I really love this game. I've enjoyed this more than any other Telltale game that I played, and that's I think that's a pretty high compliment for this game. I've enjoyed this more than the Walking Dead games. I've enjoyed this more than any other David Cage games, such as Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, which I kind of grouped all those games into the same genre. I consider all of them kind of like visual adventure games. And I have to say that Life is Strange really took me by surprise, and I really enjoyed this game. Mainly because, for once, the setting. I think Dontnod did a fantastic job of just bringing that normal everyday life setting to life. The simplicity of the environment. You deal with everyday conversations with normal people. Of course, there's this supernatural element, which is the rewinding the time. But if you take that off and you just focus on the normal characters, the everyday activities and everything like that, the game feels very natural. So I really enjoyed the setting. I really enjoy the characters. I do have to say that when compared to, for example, the Telltale games, those games have a better voice acting, a better voice or script writing. It's a little bit more on the professional side, if you want to call it that. Whereas Life is Strange was a little bit, I don't want to say underwhelming, or it was a pretty good game. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of the complaints from other people come from the fact that the dialogue between the characters is a little bit cheesy, a little bit, I guess, cringeworthy. But I thought it was adequate. The way the characters talk to each other. I mean, these are girls that are in high school. They have their own, I guess, they have their own words that they use, like hella and things like that. And I thought it was adequate. I mean, a lot of people are. A lot of people that did not enjoy the game cite that as one of the main problems with the game. I thought it was adequate. These are high school girls in their senior year. It's bound to be a little bit cringe-worthy moments in the game, and that didn't really bother me too much. And a lot of some other people hated the soundtrack, for example. Again, for me, it was more than appropriate. There's a lot of indie rock. There's also punk rock. This one friend you have in the game, she really likes punk rock. Your character Max, she's a little bit more down to earth. She listens to indie rock, and I thought that the soundtrack was fantastic. It really makes the game feel real, because the songs that Max listens to, they kind of blend with her personality. And the same thing with this other, your friend Chloe. She likes punk rock. She's a little bit more of a rebel, teenager, so she likes punk rock music. So I think everything blended extremely well, and everything felt very real. And I don't know, I guess like people sometimes they just want to, I don't know, because their teenage experience was different, they seem to think this is way off. But I thought they did a very good job with the voice acting, the writing. Again, not on the same level of quality as the Telltale games, but very good in my opinion. The gameplay, the game is played from a third-person perspective. You move your character, Max Caulfield, and you basically interact with characters. You look for clues. You look for things in the environment that you can read or inspect. And that's basically how the game goes. And then you have to make decisions, obviously. And then you have this, which is like the main part of the game, the butterfly effect part of the game, where you can rewind time. And it's a very cool feature. The game, you can't go wrong with this game. There's no game over screen, basically, because you can always rewind time, and you can always, if you make a decision and you're not sure, like, did I make the right decision, you can always rewind time and change your decision, which is a pretty cool feature in this game. Sometimes in the Walking Dead games, you by instinct you choose something, and then you're like, I'm not really sure if that's what I wanted to choose. So in this game, you can easily backtrack in time and change your decision, which it obviously has an effect and in the game. And speaking of decisions, without spoiling anything, I really liked how this game treated the decision making throughout the game. There are parts that are considerably important in this game. I felt like when compared to the Walking Dead games, for example, sometimes you make decisions in those games, something happens, but the game structures itself so that everything works out, and it feels like your decision did not have an impact on the ending of the game, on the overall ending of the game. Whereas in Life is Strange, there are things that are very critical and matter a lot, and even though the endings are a little bit, I guess, the endings in this game, which there are multiple endings, by the way, your actions the endings will end up being what they are no matter what. But throughout the game, the decisions that you made in earlier chapters have an effect that I personally enjoyed, and it's something that it's really hard, in my opinion, for developers to figure it out. The level design, the decision design in these games are, I think, somewhat hard to figure it out, and I think Life is Strange did a fantastic job on doing that. Speaking of the endings, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I've heard a lot of people were disappointed with the endings. Me personally, I was satisfied. I thought they were pretty good, but yeah, I thought they were pretty good. That's all I'm going to say. All the endings in the games, I thought they were good, and they have their pros and cons, but that's what it is. Graphically, the game looks very good. The game has a very good use of lighting. Scenes that are happening during the sunset, for example, they have a very nice orange tint in the game. The lighting is very natural, very well done. Scenes that are done in the dark look pretty good. And the environments are very detailed. When you go into a room, the rooms are full of pictures. The furnitures have different stuff on top of them, and it's just a very fun exploration when you go into a room and you're trying to inspect everything. I thought they did a fantastic job with that. Now, the character models on one hand are a little bit disappointing, especially the hair, something that Ultimate Floyd brought into his video, and I agree with him. For some reason, the hair in this game looks very weird, very odd. It looks like a plastic wig, like a solid plastic wig on the characters. A very odd way that the hair looks in this game, but overall the game graphically looks very good. And considering it's a somewhat low budget game, Square Enix, they're a big publisher. They published the game, but I don't think Dontnod was given the free. They were not given a blank check to do this game. They had a very specific budget, and I think they did a fantastic job. So now that I talk, in conclusion, as a spoiler-free conclusion, I highly recommend you guys play this game. This limited edition, this is the most pricey part of the game, or I guess bundle of the game. It's $40. It comes with the soundtrack CD, with the art book, and the game. You guys obviously don't have to go that way. Digitally, I've heard this game you can get it as low as $20 or even less than that. And there's also a normal or regular edition of the game that you can get for $29.99. So at that price point, I highly recommend that you guys give this a try, especially if you guys enjoy the Telltale games. I don't think you will be disappointed at all by this game. And if you're a trophy hunter collector, The platinum is, it could be a very easy or hard platinum. Easy if you use a guide to get the collectibles in this game, which in this case are pictures. But if you don't use a guide, I think this is one of the toughest platinum trophies, because in order to take some pictures, collectible pictures, there are certain prerequisites for certain pictures that me personally, I would never will be able to figure those out. So I thought that was for those of you that are looking for a challenge and try to complete this game without looking on a guide, you'll find the challenge trying to figure out how to take those pictures. But other than that, the collectibles are done. You can use a guide and you can see how the photos were taken. Me personally, I play the game without looking at a guide, and then I was able to find some collectibles, but I had to go back in order to get the ones that I missed. And there's a collectible mode at the end that you unlock once you beat the game that easily allows you to take the pictures and that you've missed during normal gameplay. So that was a really nice added feature in case you guys want to get the platinum trophy for this game. But overall, I highly recommend Life is Strange for you guys to check out, especially for the price. I think it's a worthy experience if you're into the visual adventure types of games. Now, spoilers will start here. I will do a brief discussion on the characters and the decision that I made during this game. Okay, spoiler starts now. Well, one of the reasons why I really like this game, chapter 2, when you save, or you have the option to save or not save. I believe her name was Kate, the very religious girl. And it was funny because I did not know that she can actually die in the game. But for me, I was able to save her naturally because I was enjoying this game so much that I was paying attention to every detail. Exploring the rooms, reading every detail that I could. And by doing that in this game, you get to learn more about, what Kate's parents did to her, who loved her the most, what are her hobbies and things like that. So that conversation that you have with her on the rooftop, definitely, if you were paying attention, basically, you will be able to answer everything accordingly, and you will be able to save her. So I thought that was a really cool reward. And like I said, because I did that on my first try, I was not aware that she could die up until Scott, Ultimate Floyd 1, he pointed out that she can actually die. And I was like, oh, really? I did not know that. And it's pretty cool because if you save her, there are certain parts in later chapters that are specific to her, such as when you go and visit her to the hospital. I thought that was a pretty cool added bonus scene. So I thought that was a pretty nice touch, and that's why I like this game. The decisions that you make, they have a perhaps not a huge impact, but enough for you to enjoy it and to see what decisions you took throughout the game. Also, the characters. I really enjoyed the friendship between Max and Chloe. It was a very nice reunion, if you want to call it that. And the way they treat each other, it makes you care for them. And obviously, you want this. You're basically rooting for this friendship to work out, and you're trying to help Chloe obviously solve the case of Rachel Amber, which she's the one that disappeared. In the ending, I ended up saving Chloe instead of Arcadia Bay, which is my reasoning behind that. I was like, okay, so the game is having me choose between an entire city and Chloe, but I figured I had that very slim hope that saving Chloe would be like the true happy ending, and I was hoping that by saving her, something would have happened to the other important people in the game, such as her mom, Joycey, for example. I thought that they were going to be saved somehow, like they were going to escape the city from the tornado. So I was hoping that by saving Chloe, I would save her, and that everlasting friendship, obviously, because the game really makes you feel like that week that you spent with Chloe together, she was the most important person in your life during that whole time. So I was hoping that by saving her, you would also save some other people, but that didn't happen. Obviously, the tornado wipes out Arcadia Bay, and it's kind of like a sick ending in a way, because both Max and Chloe, they drive, and they look at the debris and all the death and destruction, and they look at each other and they kind of like smile at each other. So I guess it's a happy ending, quote unquote, but a ton of people died in the process. Of course, I had to reset the. I mean, I didn't reset the game. I saved it, and then by chapter select, I went ahead and watched the other ending, which is Saving Arcadia Bay, which is a pretty sad ending, in the sense that Chloe dies. She's your best friend. She's the most important person to you in the game, basically. And you get to see her in the cemetery. You're basically going to her burial, but in the end, everybody lives in the game. All the characters. You basically save the city. And in the end, it's kind of like an emotional one, with the blue butterfly that poses on top of the casket. And I think in my opinion, that's the best ending in the game. And I did not have any gripes. I think some people did not enjoy the endings for some reason or another. I thought both were good and bad in their own ways. One of them kind of silly. For example, the one that I chose, saving Chloe. I thought it was kind of silly that, people are basically watching this huge tornado coming towards the city. Like, why didn't people like escape or try to evacuate? I'll never understand that, but that was my decision that I made in the game. And I really like how some characters change throughout the game. For example, David. I think it was David, Chloe's stepdad. At first I was convinced that he was a moron, a douchebag, a kind of like he had some nuts or bald sleuths in his head. But he ends up being a very important person. He saves your life in the game, and I thought he's like a really good guy, like a genuine good guy, trying to do the right thing. And I felt bad for him, because throughout the whole game I kind of hated him up until the very end, when he acts as a good person, obviously. And he was a little bit creepy, the whole way, but in the end he was a very good person. And of course we have the major plot twist, which is Jefferson, Mr. Jefferson being the actual psycho character of the game. I have to say, I did not see that coming at all. I was very surprised. And that happens at the end of chapter 4. And as soon as chapter 4 ended, I was like, I need to play chapter 5 right now. So kudos to those of you guys that bought this game, when they were coming out episodically, and then you had to wait a few months, because I would have gone crazy if I finished chapter 4 and then I had to wait like a couple months for chapter 5 to come out. I was like, I need to play chapter 5 right now. I want to see what the hell happens. I did not see that coming. So I think this game did a fantastic job of keeping you in the edge at the end of each chapter, which is the the normal rule, the rule of thumb in these episodic games. But I feel like sometimes the Telltale games, they do a good job of keeping you on the edge of your seat at the end of the episodes. But I think Life is Strange did a fantastic job, especially in the later episodes. Chapter 3, 4, chapter 3 and 4, I thought had a pretty good endings. Of course, when Chloe she goes paraplegic, you thought you solved everything. You thought you finally were able to bring happiness. You thought that you were finally able to use your powers for the good. And then of course you save her dad, but at the same time she gets into the car accident and she becomes paraplegic. She can't really walk or anything, and in the end you end up killing her in a way, because she'll die no matter what, because she has that deterioration of her body because of the accident. So by the way, I did not sacrifice her. I did not kill her when she asked you to basically to perform euthanasia right there to her. I kept her alive. I just could not do it. But it was really interesting. Like, I did not see that coming. That was a very shocking scene at the end, when I saw at the end of chapter 3, I think it was, when you see her coming in a wheelchair. I'm like, are you kidding me? You finally did the right things. You finally used your powers to solve everything, and now this happens. So overall, I really enjoy the characters. I know there were some cringeworthy moments because this is high school. These are high schoolers and things like that. But I thought the game was fantastic. So let me know, guys, what you think about this game in the comment section. If you have finished this game, let me know your thoughts on the endings and what have you. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all later. Take it easy.